Eric to wait 5 seconds before we start speaking here.
Okay, you got it. You think we hit our 5 seconds, Derek?
I think so.
We're live.
We're live. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Derek. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. All right, I'm excited for the session.
Me too.
The title and topic is about unlocking innovation, and it's really about how investing in your staff and in yourself can accelerate your mission. And we're here to make a pitch to executives and leaders to create the space, invest in your team. And also, Kelly's going to walk us through from an individual contributor perspective, if this is something that excites you and invigorates you. Obviously, you're here, so it must be. Um, how to make that case to your manager, to your leaders, to invest in you for the purposes of innovation. But before we get started, let's introduce ourselves, Kelly. So,
Sure.
my name's Derek Martin. I manage the solution architect team at Blackbaud. We're a pre-sales team, so we work with customers before they buy to help them evaluate our solutions and match their requirements to the right solution at Blackbaud, come up with creative configurations and customizations that help meet our customers' needs and goals and requirements. Kelly?
And yeah, I sit on a team like Derek just described. So I'm an independent contributor here. And I work with those organizations to kind of marry outcomes to technology and make sure that we're helping to problem solve throughout, the entire life cycle of an organization being in the Blackbaud family. So prior to joining Blackbaud, Derek and I were actually both customers. So that's an exciting aside as well that we came to Blackbaud having used the products and kind of wanted to help more organizations. So yeah, really fun to be here today.
And Kelly, I think we got the time, so we should say it. Where were you a customer?
Oh, yes. So most recently, I was at the Clifford Still Museum here in Denver, where I live, using one of our products, All True. And prior to that, I worked in a variety of nonprofits, but I started actually in higher ed using Razor's Edge and Razor's Edge NXT. So, kind of, yeah, always been on the fundraising side of the house. What about you?
That's great. I came from the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and I came to Blackbaud by way of Convio. So I started at Convio, and then Blackbaud acquired Convio about a year and a half after that. But at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, I managed donor operations there, but really originally started um, as a what they called a cycle buddy at the time. If you know anything about the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, you probably know about their bike ride. They do a 7-day bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. In fact, the ride is happening this week. In fact,
Oh,
the riders are probably climbing the toughest hill of the ride right now as we speak. They call it
let's cheer them
Quadbuster.
on.
Yeah. But that's an excellent example. That event is an excellent example of innovation. And that event raised $11 million this year. I just saw the press release. So exciting.
That's
All right.
incredible. I can't wait to hear how they do.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's this session for, Derek? You mentioned in the opening, we're going to talk to kind of two different personas today. So we want to hit on both, and we're not going to separate this. So I'm going to try to bring that independent contributor role to the session, and Derek's going to be that leader executive position. But really, you're here, which means you've already been kind of brought into this circle and have the buy-in from someone at your organization, or you've bought into this idea. So we are going to take some time at the end to really hear from each other and try to learn, because Derek and I can present all the tools and tips and tricks, but we also want to hear from everyone in the room of how they've had success doing some of this work. So we will save time for that. Derek, should we find out who's in the room today?
Yeah, let's find out who's in the room. So, if you would indulge us, please, we have a poll here. So, you can respond to the poll by using the QR code with your phone or by sending a text. You see the instructions above. But tell us who you are. Are you an individual contributor or are you a leader of people, a people leader? Give folks a minute to respond to that. I do that. I want to see who is in the room and see if there's anybody I know. Hi, Alicia. Good to see you here.
I see one of my Denverites, Thomas. Nice to see you. Okay. I also love that we're using technology in this presentation, Derek.
We're taking a bit of a leap here.
Let's see if our poll works.
Unfortunately, this new event platform, it's really great in a lot of ways, but it does not allow you to create your own poll as a speaker. We would have had to like submit that ahead of time, and we missed the deadline for that. So thanks for indulging us with this poll everywhere poll. All right, so I see a few folks responding. Looks like we've got a healthy mix of people leaders and individual contributors, so that's great.
And if the poll's too much, put it in the chat.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat. It looks like we're a reasonably small group, so all right. Well, we'll move on from this. And in fact, I was inspired. I don't know. I added this slide last minute. I don't know if any folks attended the Innovation is Everywhere keynote, moderated by Catherine Hall, who is in our product marketing function at Blackbaud. But the guest speaker, the guest star was Kristen Jordan from Amazon. And I really got jazzed about this idea of the 10 faces of innovation. And so you can see here, sort of at the top, these are when I say, like, are you a people leader or an individual contributor? But even in terms of if you're a people leader, what kind of people leader are you? Are you a hurdler? Are you a collaborator? Are you a director? And then in terms of individual contributor roles, when we think about the 10 faces of innovation, again, it's more than just individual contributor or people leader. There are many kinds of faces of innovation. There are many kinds of roles that you can play in a team that's focused on innovation. So I came away inspired by that and thought I'd sort of double click on that in this session today. So I'm going to start out with people leaders. We're going to start with the why. Why invest in your staff? Why invest in yourself? And I've got three reasons for you. So first, we're making the assumption that you're all Blackbaud customers. You all have a Blackbaud subscription to some piece of Blackbaud software, or maybe more than one. So there's your first reason to get the most out of your Blackbaud software. The second is, as a leader of people, you have an obligation to get the most out of your team, and investing in your team will help you get the most out of your team. And then the third thing is building a culture of innovation. We're going to go into a little bit of why build that culture of innovation. What kind of outcomes can that drive for your organization? So I'll start with getting the most out of your Blackbaud software. I mentioned that Kelly and I are both in a pre-sales function. So we work mostly with customers who are not yet customers of Blackbaud, prospects who are looking to evaluate Blackbaud solutions to determine if they can meet their requirements. But we're also sometimes called upon to work with customers who are struggling with their Blackbaud software. And I'll tell you, 99 times out of 100, it's not because the software can't do what the customer needs it to do. It's because they haven't invested in their team in training and learning. They haven't taken advantage of all of the capabilities of the software. It's underutilized, essentially. And just to give you a bit of a proof point in terms of how investing in your team and in innovation can help you get the most out of your Blackbaud software. 85% of participants who attended this event, BB Dev Days, in 2023 said that what they learned improved their usage and experience with Blackbaud solutions. Just attending an event like this, absorbing all of the goodness that is being offered by Blackbaud and by our partners and by our customers will help you improve your usage and experience with Blackbaud solutions. The learning opportunities really are a special experience, and it's wonderful how our community really drives the content, facilitates peer learning, and it really shows as you come away every year as you attend this event with new skills, new connections, new examples of what's possible.
Derek, I'm going to throw something in that we didn't talk about, but I just had this
Yeah.
little connection point of, you and I get to work with so many customers that are evaluating and starting on this great journey of kicking off a project. But I think that at Dev Days right now, the room is probably full of folks that are way into that subscription, like really far into their relationship. They're
Yeah.
not in that kind of newness, and so there's a lot less time spent thinking through ways to reinvigorate, ways to reimagine processes, right? You do that at the beginning. And I hope this session also inspires people to go back and think about that kind of every year of, kind of throwing up your hands and thinking through what you could reevaluate and redo, just like you did at the beginning of your relationship. Because it's really important to look at not what has been developed and given to you in the software of new functionality, but what haven't you looked at in a few years that could be totally reimagined now, especially with Power Platform?
You are what you're describing, Kelly, is a culture of innovation.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, in terms of getting the most out of your team, um, investing in your team, investing in learning opportunities for your team is a way for you to attract and retain top talent. People leaders, if you're anything like me, I have a team, my architect team that I run, I have 4 architects on my team, and the shortest tenured person on my team has 12 years of Blackbaud experience. I think the longest term tenured person has now 20 years of experience, right? Can you imagine don't tell them I said this, but can you imagine the nervousness I feel sometimes of like, oh gosh, I can't deal with the idea of any of these people leaving my team. And certainly if they are going to leave my team, I'm going to try and figure out how to keep them at Blackbaud because they are, if you know any of them, they're also wonderful and they bring so much experience and goodness to every customer interaction. So what do? I create space for them to learn. I make sure that they're not so calendared that they can't take um, some hours out of every week for learning opportunities because the cost of replacing an individual employee can range from one half to two times that employee's annual salary. And on the flip side of that, 68% of workers say that they would stay in jobs that provide more opportunities to upskill. So that's what I try and provide for my team. And so far, it's working out great. I don't have anyone who's left my architect team since I took that team over 2 years ago. The most innovative tech companies do the same. So Google is famous for this. Google employees are encouraged to use one day of every week or 20% of their time to focus on side projects. Did you know, for example, that Gmail was a side project? Something that probably almost everybody in the room probably uses almost every day. Maybe not
Yes.
everybody's a Gmail user, but it's one of the most common personal email accounts that folks have. It started as a project that a few employees decided to focus their 20% time on. Microsoft hackathons are sort of a similar kind of thing, but they're organized sort of more around an event kind of calendar, and they use them as a platform for experimentation and idea sharing. And Blackbaud may have been inspired by the hackathon concept. We have for many years now run off the grid days. That helps empower employees across our entire business, including non coders like myself, to collaborate on innovative projects and ideas that they've got. And those ideas, again, they show up in our solutions. So the most innovative tech companies are doing this already, saving the space for innovation. And you may say, I'm not a tech company, I'm a nonprofit. That's okay. Um, Nonprofits can do the same kind of thing. Now, we talked about a culture of innovation, and Kelly mentioned um, sort of this idea of continuously putting yourself in a state of looking for constant improvement. Um, not um, not just putting yourself in that mindset when you're looking for a new software solution, but as you are, even after implementation, as you're using the solution, looking for that constant improvement. That is a culture of innovation. And that culture of innovation can be a competitive differentiator for your nonprofit. You heard Jerry this morning in the keynote talking about innovation. It just means doing something different, trying new ideas. It's not necessarily a tech thing, it's not necessarily a code thing. But I do want to cite here, nonprofits often struggle with this. They're sometimes slower at adopting more modern approaches and tools. Our recent status of fundraising research found an interesting link between fundraising performance and innovating and trying new things. You can see here that um, the statement, our income growth was planned based on new and different activity. So essentially, innovation drove increases in revenue. That was the number two stated factor for increased revenue from respondents to this state of fundraising report in 2023.
So you're telling me that organizations can raise more money by creating that culture of innovation internally and then bringing that externally to their
That's
prospects.
exactly that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
when we think about innovation and we think about the problems that nonprofit organizations, and specifically, I know that many of you are probably in a fundraising function, are trying to solve, right? Those kinds of things, when you innovate the donor experience, that can lead to increased revenue. We have a little bit of a leave behind for you here. We have a free ebook on creating a culture of innovation. And if you want to scan the QR code quickly here, and if not, you don't have time to do that, you will be able to find that on our website. Just Google Blackbaud Culture of Innovation.
Derek, you mentioned, one, and I'm taking notes over here because I'm going to bring this back to my team. But you mentioned one, very tactical way that you are shaping your team into this culture by
Mhm.
allowing that breadth in a calendar to experiment and to find time for this. Um, do you have any other examples that you can share that have really changed either your team or the greater team because you are a leader at Blackbaud to have this type of culture? And I say that knowing that we are a technology company, so maybe we
Yeah.
have a little more benefit. But what else have you done to really shape that for your team and the people that you influence?
Well, I think it starts at the top, right? So one of the things, Kelly, that I love about our quarterly check-in process
Mhm.
is that we ask three questions. And one of those questions is, what did you learn or teach this past quarter? Um, and so that is a good reminder for me as a people leader to make sure that in order to have a happy quarterly check-in with each of my team members at the end of the quarter, that in my weekly one-on-ones, I'm probing, I'm asking, what time did you set aside this week? What LinkedIn learning did you go out there and do? What experimentation did you do in our demo environments? I'm just asking, right? And that sets
Yeah.
the expectation that for my team, that is part of their job, right? And that they don't have to necessarily be accountable to an outcome
Yeah.
that drives the business, a KPI that drives the business, but what they do have to be accountable to is setting aside that time for learning.
So a little bit of failure in that as well, right? So if there's not an
Absolutely.
outcome, right, attached to that, it's, go and test it and play and come back and maybe the outcome is we're not any farther along than we were, but we know now that's not a path we want to continue on.
That's right.
Awesome. I love that. Should we talk
And
about it? Yeah. No, go ahead.
I, so flip the script, Kelly. You've excelled in the solutions consulting function since you joined the team a few years ago. And part of your excellence is you've done the same thing, right? You've gone out and sought opportunities to improve your skill set, to learn new things, to try and experiment and play.
Yep.
How do you sell that to your manager? I'm not your manager, but how do you sell
Yeah.
that to your manager?
Well, now I know how to sell it to you, Derek, but when when I'm selling it to my own manager, one thing I actually talked with her about this morning, I try to look at every project that I'm either interested in or, and I'm interested in everything. So, that's part of my problem is staying in a focused way on a couple of really key projects. But I try to sell the vision at both my own personal growth level, but also how I can impact the team. So I always come with that two-prong approach. So I come with a list of ways that whatever I'm going to go learn, how that can be brought back to either just our immediate team or the greater solutions consulting, component of the business, whether that's me doing a short presentation or training a few of my colleagues on a particular, new skill that I've learned. But I always go in with that two-prong approach of it's not just going to benefit me, but here's how I'll bring that to the team. So that I can get more bang for my buck, essentially, right? If I'm going to pull out for half a day to go participate in a workshop or a new learning, I better bring that back to the entire team, right? So we can all accomplish more if we're bringing that back and learning from each other.
That's great.
Should we talk about building a business case? I
Let's
like
do
all the
it.
tools and tips and tricks. So we boiled this down to three, key factors here, or key takeaways to present and build your business case. And I don't just speak about this business case from an independent contributor point of view. I think we can flip that a little bit. And if you are kind of the people leader in the room, and you're wanting your staff to come with a more articulated case, I think this is a nice template to walk through what that case could look like. So, first, got to define that scope. In my personal opinion, I think the narrower the better. So, focus on a few small, impactful areas that you can seek out change. Of course, keeping in mind that sometimes there is failure along with that. But don't go so big that it becomes overwhelming. I think Nina mentioned in the opening today that these don't have to be big, heady ideas, right? Like get a few small, very concrete examples of processes that you can improve upon and work on that limited scope. Second, document your work. So I'm going to show a few resources here on how to structure that ask, but really list out your use case, who's involved, the business area or the team impacted, and what outcome you hope to achieve. So you really have to have all of those pieces documented to present your plan. And then, most importantly, I think if you're going to present one piece, it's projecting that impact. So, what is the value to the business? What is the time savings? What is the revenue generation? If you're coming forward with this, I know I have the tendency to have too much information. Really boil it down to the bucket number three. So one and two can be in your back pocket. You've got all those answers if someone digs deeper and asks about the specifics, but really focusing on the impact to the organization will help sell your case.
The ROI.
The ROI, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
We have a few tools to help you along. One of those, and Derek, there we go. One of those is linked here. I didn't put a fancy QR code up, just the hyperlink there that you can type in. But all of our resources on the Blackbaud developer portal are really helpful in creating your business case. This example linked actually walks you through documenting that use case, those folks involved at the organization that will be impacted, the outcome, some pricing. So this is actually a much bigger template than what I have on screen here, but this is a really good way to get started and start to plot out those next steps. I also think it's really important to lean into all the other resources that we have in the Sky Developer Portal. So we have free training. We've got documentation on all of our integrations. And this isn't just speaking about Razor's Edge, even though that's the background I come from. We've got this for kind of all of our solutions here and have that community voice to back up what we've been talking about. Um, of course, these resources are going to be helpful when you start to do the work, but I actually would use these resources in your pitch, in your business case to show that you don't have to go out and search for how to buy Power Platform licenses. We've got
You're
all the
not inventing the
documentation you
wheel.
need.
Yeah.
No, no, like we've got it all ready for you to go. Show that you've done your work and you have all that documentation already. We've done it. Everyone, there's a lot of people there that have been here before. The community kind of leads us into our next part of the discussion, but I would also go and pull examples from the community of organizations that have done this work already, right? Find a few examples. You can show that you've not only done your research, but that a template already exists for the type of work you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
I'll fast forward a little bit because I know we want to open this up, Derek, but if we could put up just that, yeah, customer spotlight. I won't go into this much, but I also think leaning into those customer examples, right? Your peers and how they've not only, achieved these successes, but hitting on those ROI. In this case, this organization saves 10 hours a week. That's huge. That's like what, a quarter of a person. That's a really big investment and time savings. So using this to back up your business case is really helpful. And these are found just on the Blackbaud website. So I would take those and put them in your back pocket as well. Yes. Should we open it up? Our chat's been quiet, but we really want to hear from everyone in the audience of how you've been successful creating this culture of innovation, bringing forward your big ideas, and getting all of this work started at your organization. So go ahead and raise your hand, put it in chat. Actually, don't know how the raising of the hand works, Derek. So we'll
I'm
we'll
not
see if
sure
we
either. We
can.
had trouble with this in the birds of a feather sessions, but if
Did you?
some brave soul wants to raise your hand, we'll see if we can make it work. If not, chat your comment, chat your question.
And if you have other asks of our team, put that in chat as well. If you're having a hard time as an independent contributor making this pitch, and additional resources would be helpful, let us know. From the people manager, what are you getting stuck on? I don't know if those hand raising capabilities work, Derek.
I don't know either.
Look at us using new technology.
Okay, well, uh, we're coming up on the end of the session. Thank you all for attending. I hope you took some good stuff away from this.
Yeah.
Please, I will launch our survey here and ask that you do uh, take 2 seconds to give Kelly and me your feedback. And just want to say thank you, everyone, for attending our session and also for, of course, for attending BB Dev Days. And hope
Yes.
you have a great conference.
We'll see you in the other sessions.